Good morning, friends. My name is Dr. Joseph Bryant Jr., and I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director of the Rainbow Push West Coast Silicon Valley office and Push Tech initiatives. We are so excited to be a part of this year's Atlanta conference, our Creating Opportunities experience, and kudos to our colleagues, attorney Robert Patillo and Trina Havington, for putting together such a phenomenal event. As you all know, this is a critical time for all of us. And our fearless leader, Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson, continues to be on the front lines of change, raising the banner of awareness and consciousness, and allowing us to engage ourselves in such a critical time, for such a time as this, to ensure that our voices and our votes do matter. He has, for nearly 60 years now, pushed the envelope around this country on voter registration and now with voter education. There are so many things that have happened in the past election cycles that have been disturbing, that have been troublesome. We've seen so many misgivings around how we receive and dialogue and engage with information. And so I am grateful that our organization, through Reverend Jackson's leadership, continues to connect with Silicon Valley leaders, in particular with Meta, formerly known as Facebook, to help us to understand our role and our relationship with social media and online tools. And because of that connection, we today are partnering with this fabulous initiative known as MediaWise. This session is called MediaWise for the midterms. We have a little time to get ourselves together, to gather information, to prepare ourselves with all of the right content for us to know how to proceed, how to encourage others to engage in the electoral process, how to know how to receive information, and how to decide whether or not we are really receiving what we need to make learned choices about our decisions moving forward. Our voices matter and our votes matter. And so MediaWise is a nonpartisan, nonprofit digital media literacy initiative that is led by the Pointer Institute, and their mission is to empower people with the skills to identify misinformation through engaging in digital literacy education. And their goal is to support citizens who want to make sure that we pursue the truth, because when truth prevails, democracy wins. I am so grateful to have with us today the director of the MediaWise program, who's going to share with you some insights and information that's going to help us to discern and decide how we navigate our online resources, how we engage social media, how we learn from the things that we see, and how we throw away those things that we don't need. Alex Mahadavan is the director of the MediaWise program. He's been the director since 2019. He has taught digital media literacy, early for me on the West Coast, digital media literacy to thousands of people around this country, from older adults to teenagers. And he has trained journalists across the world on how to verify information, how to ensure that information is received and it's right. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our Rainbow Push Creating Opportunities Conference, Mr. Alex Mahadavan.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Brian. I honestly couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, if you're looking for a new job, I don't know, later this year, we could use a new spokesperson. You know, you said it a lot better than me, but I'm really, really excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. And like Dr. Brian said, this is a really important time. It's a really important time for this country as we get ready to vote right now. You know, early voting is underway a lot here in Florida. So I'm really happy to be here and show you how to find the facts when it comes to media literacy and misinformation online. So let me start with something really important that I want to get off my chest real quick. Today, I'm not going to be talking about Kanye West. Yay. I promise. It's in the news right now. I will not be talking about him, I swear. But I do want to talk about the things that can influence someone to believe the things and say the things that he's been saying, and how artists and celebrities and others with big platforms can come to believe some of the incorrect, false things that they believe, and how you all can go home to your communities and be ambassadors in your communities for change, for facts, for truth, and for democracy. So like Dr. Brian said, we are a media literacy organization. That means we go all over the country and teach people how to separate fact from fiction online. Myself, I love this because I'm a journalist. I'm a reporter at heart. I've been a reporter since since I got out of college. And so I've always been really passionate about the facts. And I understand now how important it is having the facts when you go to the polls, when your friends, your family, your communities go to the polls. So a little bit about our history. We started back in 2019. Now, originally, we started mainly to service teenagers. We realized that teens were really bad at sharing false things online. Think about it. Look at TikTok nowadays. But back in 2018, they were even worse. So we started trying to figure out how can we reach teenagers. We launched the Teen Fact Checking Network, a group of teens who teach each other how to fact check. If you follow us on TikTok, you can see a lot of the work that they're doing to stop misinformation at a young age. Next up, 2020. You all remember the pandemic. We had a world-changing election coming up. We realized that older adults and college students were all going to the polls and needed to go to the polls with the facts. So we launched online courses and virtual seminars for older people. We launched text message courses so we could reach college students and teenagers before they go to the polls and vote with the facts. And I believe we made an impact on that election with people going to the polls and sharing the facts with their friends and family. And most recently, we've reached out to all different demographics and all over the world, trying to reach people with our lessons on digital media literacy, from those in Spain, Turkey, France, Brazil, and most excitingly, with our friends Telemundo, Spanish speakers in the United States. So I'm very excited to reach even more folks today. Like I said, I really, really appreciate the opportunity. So first, I'm going to talk about the disinformation challenge in African-American communities. This is not a problem that's universal to any single demographic, any person, any community, but every community struggles in their own way with this issue. Next up, now that you know the problem, I'm going to teach you how to think like a fact checker so you can go back to your communities and teach your friends and family how to spot misinformation and falsehoods online before they share it. And finally, we're going to bring it all home. I'm going to talk to you how to talk to friends and family about misinformation online. Let's get right into it. I keep dropping this word, misinformation. What does it mean? Well, it means anything that is shared online that is false, regardless of intent. It doesn't matter if you're sharing a scam or something that you think is true, a fundraiser that may not actually be fundraising for who you think it is. If you're sharing it online and you don't know it's false, that's misinformation. Now, the more dangerous one is disinformation. That is when someone creates falsehoods, shares them online on purpose. That is a dangerous one, and we'll talk a little bit about why. So why do people create disinformation? You can probably guess. They want to build followers. People share falsehoods online because they want to get people to follow them on Twitter, on Facebook, everywhere else. They want to disrupt democracy. You see a lot of the themes around disinformation aimed at pitting voters against each other, making sure people go to the polls and not know what they're talking about, what they're thinking. And that disrupts our democracy. Always political motivations. I'm sure you've been targeted with ads across social media that aren't all the way true. This isn't just true of social media. Think about the last time you watched a sports game. I mean, I was watching football games this weekend, and I saw all sorts of political ads that weren't all the way true. And lastly, I mentioned scams, making money. All comes down to money. When it comes to disinformation, people love to share falsehoods to make money. But the biggest type of falsehood you're going to see online are misinformation. That's because anyone can share falsehoods without actually knowing it. And the number one reason they do that, they want to help. Think about back at the COVID-19 pandemic's start. People were sharing all sorts of miracle cures because they wanted to help their friends and family. They just wanted to see their friends healthy. But those may have not been true. And actually, for the most part, none of them were really true. We saw this echo into vaccines and masks and going beyond. People just share misinformation because they want to help. Emotional connection. If you feel emotional online, you might be more willing to share something that's actually false. A lot of what you see on social media gives you like strong emotion, whether it's fear, anger, disgust, joy. That's why people share falsehoods online without knowing it. And there's just so much information out there. And there's always this pressure to share your take, right? Your friends and family want to know what you think about the latest piece of news. Well, you don't always have to share it. You don't always have to share your take, that's for sure. But specifically in the African-American community, what you see is people spreading falsehoods on social media like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And all of it centers around healthcare, the economy, politics. And then really what you saw over the last 2 years are these racialized narratives trying to pit 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups against each other. These are falsehoods spread with the intention of weaponizing race. This is some of the most dangerous disinformation that we've seen come out of the last 2 years. But really, it's something that we've seen going back decades, hundreds of years. This type of disinformation aimed at pitting groups against each other. You see the manipulation of statistics. You see the rolling back of civil rights policies, cherry picking pieces of information to create these false narratives. Really, the goal is to capitalize on this history of racism to share falsehoods and influence the way that you vote, that your friends vote, that your neighbors, your community votes. You see disenfranchisement through disinformation. And that's really what I want to make sure that we accomplish today, is that we get you prepared for the election, what you're going to see, and teach you how to fact check like a pro. Let's go on, talk a little bit more about kind of the topics of disinformation. Like I said, you see all of these racialized narratives pitting 2 groups against other groups. So you see these narratives spread online. A piece of news breaks. Someone of a certain race or ethnicity either committed or was the victim of a crime. You see all of these different news narratives come together. And then on social media, people do not read past the headline. So you see lots of out of context narratives about all sorts of different race-related topics spreading. And that is dangerous. That is absolutely dangerous. Next up, you have the targets of disinformation. You see the African-American community is always a target of disinformation because lots of civil rights issues. There are organizations that are really about getting people to the polls. It's a voting bloc that has made a massive difference in elections over the years. Whenever bad actors who are trying to influence elections realize that a group is going to be influential in elections, they know that they need to reach that group with falsehoods to break up their group and influence the way that they think, that they feel, that they have facts reach themselves when they go to the polls. You are already seeing this with lots of Senate races throughout the country. A Senate race, a governor's race here, not here because I'm in Florida, but up where you are in Atlanta is happening. You see this in all sorts of battleground states. Disinformation is out there to disrupt democracy, to change the way you vote, the way your friends vote, the way your family votes. Really, what I want you to come away with today is learning about this stuff so you can tell your neighbors. I trust that anyone who got up this early this morning to come to this this wonderful conference today, you know what you're doing. You know how to get the facts, but I want you to teach. I want to empower you to do that even more powerfully and reach your friends and family with all of these lessons that we will talk about today. And then finally, elections. So it's not just about the candidates. It's not even just about the issues. It's about elections themselves. You see bad actors out there trying to decertify elections, to contest election results, and coming out and saying that they will not accept election results as they roll in. So, along with race-related mis and disinformation, health and COVID-19 related mis and disinformation, the big type of falsehoods you need to be watchful of online have to do with voting registration, and most importantly, voting results. Early voting has started in a lot of places. Mail-in ballots are going out in a lot of places. And that means that there's a lot of uncertainty. We're almost at a point where more people are voting by mail than in person. We're not there yet, but we could be there. We could be there soon enough. And that means that it takes longer for election workers to count votes, takes a little bit longer to get those results in. And if you're like me, you don't like to wait. I hate to wait. I'm the kind of person who is refreshing the Washington Post over and over and over again, trying to get those election results. And I think a lot of people, when they don't want to wait, there's that uncertainty in the air. You might be more willing to believe falsehoods like ballot harvesting. A lot of disinformers say that there are false ballots coming in, that there are ballot mules, that there are people who are voting illegally. All of these narratives have been debunked. Many are very, very, very false, and you are going to see the same ones over and over and over again. There are more voters than ballots. That is, it's more ballots than voters. That is not correct, and that's something that you're going to see often. So really, if you come away with anything from this presentation today, is I want you to be able to go to your communities and warn them about all of the different type of election mis and disinformation that they may be seeing coming up in these elections. And the thing is, there are real world consequences. Just down the road from me, the Tampa Bay Times just wrote about all of these folks who were arrested for voting illegally. Now, all of this uproar about voting, about ballots, about voting illegally, et cetera, is creating a panic that is putting regular people in the crosshairs. And these are folks who may have been encouraged to vote. They may not have been eligible to vote. And then they're arrested. And if you want to check out a story about all this, check out the Tampa Bay Times. This is real world consequences for all of this mis and disinformation. But the solution here is media literacy. I want you to empower your communities to fight this stuff. Build trust with local media. Build knowledge about the digital world and fight misinformation where it is online. So what does this stuff actually look like? What does misinformation actually look like in the wild? Well, the majority of what you're going to see are memes. Sure, you all have seen memes out there. I mean, it's just some funny text over any image. They are really easy to make. They spread really quickly because everyone likes memes. You like memes. Your mom likes memes. Your uncle, your daughter's friends, everyone has experience with memes. And a majority of the time, they don't have sources and they're not 100% true. So you got to watch out when you see memes online because there's a pretty good chance that you're not getting the whole picture. Next up, and the most common type of mis or disinformation that you may see online, videos. Now, taking a step back, this is beyond broadcast news. You know, social media now is all about the videos. I brought up TikTok a few times. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a TikTok fan, but videos are basically the way that people consume things online. Memes still spread really quickly, but videos are where you see a lot of falsehoods online. And it's really, really easy to create false narratives here. So this is a video from Joe Biden, allegedly, that we saw spread quite a bit. The caption here in this tweet was, I'm not going to take any questions because I think it's inappropriate. I think there might be a video to play of him actually saying this.
You think it's inappropriate? I'm not going to take any questions because you think it's inappropriate. I'm not going to take any questions.
Now that sounds pretty dang bad, right? The president of the United States is saying, I'm not going to take any questions because it wouldn't be inappropriate. As a journalist, this gave me that emotional connection that I talked about earlier. And it was a little bit upsetting. But as always, there was a lot more to the story. Here is the full video of what Biden actually said during this, coming up here in a second here, because there's really always more to the story. You know, whenever you see a video online, there is always more to the story. So let's watch this video real quick of the full thing Biden said.
Thank you all so very, very much for being here. And I'm not going to take any questions because I think it's inappropriate to take questions with the justice here. He's still sitting on the bench, but you'll have plenty of opportunities to get me later today and for the rest of the week.
It's pretty wild, right? All it took was one easy, quick little edit, And people were able to go viral, making President Joe Biden look like he was saying that he wasn't going to take any questions. He literally said later in the video, "Oh yeah, you'll catch me later to get any questions." The reason he wasn't taking any questions was because he didn't want to take any with the justice sitting right there. You know what I mean? This is an example of how easy it is to create disinformation online and how easy it is to spread, because there are a lot of normal people, you know, even journalists might have shared that thinking, wow, our president just said he didn't want to take any questions. There is another type of misinformation video that's actually a little bit creepy, and you may have heard of it before, but let me show you an example of it in the next video here.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time, even if they would never say those things. So, for instance, they could have me say things like, Killmonger was right, or Ben Carson is in the sunken place, or, how about this, simply, President Trump is a total and complete Now, you see, I would never say these things, at least not in a public address, but someone else would. Someone like Jordan Peele. This is a dangerous time. Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet. It's a time when we need to rely on trusted news sources. It may sound basic, but how we move forward in the age of information is...
So as you can see there, that was not actually former President Barack Obama in a public address saying some pretty wild things. That was something called a deep fake. If you've heard of a deep fake, you've probably maybe heard of a deep fake. We might have some Silicon Valley people here who are very familiar with deep fakes. This is basically using computer programming to swap someone's face. Like Jordan there said, make someone do something and say something that they're not actually doing. Now, this video is pretty old. Deep fakes have gotten a lot more sophisticated and easier to make. It's scary, right? So you definitely should approach videos online with a certain amount of skepticism. Something that someone is saying or dancing or doing something like they would never, ever do. You got to be a little skeptical about it. But like I said, really the most dangerous thing are those cheap fakes, those edited videos. So there are deep fakes, these AI videos, and then cheap fakes. That's like the Biden video that I showed you. Quick edit. That can spread a lot more quickly than deep fakes. It can have a lot more harm because it is a real video that has just been edited and taken a little bit out of context. Speaking of out of context, images. These are used out of context all of the time because you see an image online and you might be really quick to believe it. You know, a real image can be used out of context. Someone might take a really old image and say, oh, this was just taken the other day. This was at a politician's rally showing 1 million people, but maybe it was actually from 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Images can be manipulated. Photoshop, I'm sure you've heard of Photoshop. People can use Photoshop to edit images online. And then visual data and graphics. You've seen charts, you've seen graphs all the time. People use those visual statistics and graphics to mislead. So just like I said with the cheap fakes and the deep fakes, when you see images online, you need to stop and think, especially if it gives you that emotional feeling. That emotional feeling can influence you and make the difference between you sharing something false online. Kind of similar to images, screenshots, cross-posted content. It's really easy to package and create mis and disinformation if you take a screenshot of, say, a fake tweet and share it on Facebook. Or you take a TikTok, download it, share it on Instagram Reels. It's really easy to create this fake content because it's hard to tell whether or not something is real if it's from a different platform. I could create a fake tweet in about 25 seconds if I wasn't here right now. I could create a fake tweet in 25 seconds. I could take a screenshot of that tweet and I could post it on Facebook. And I'll tell you what, I guarantee you I would have a few friends that would be a little thrown off by it. They might actually believe it. So the issue here is whenever you see something that is from a different platform, a different social media, anything online like that, you got to be a little bit questionable about it. Also, people create fake news stories and they share fake news stories this way because all they have to do is use Photoshop to create what looks like a CNN story and share it on a different platform. And people might think it's actually CNN saying something. This is how people weaponize the news to create mis and disinformation. Pink slime. Now, this sounds gross. You might remember those old videos of chicken nuggets getting made. Well, it's this like pink, gross pink slime that's going in. Well, pink slime is really what we refer to as these local fake news outlets. So you may or may not know there was a crisis in local news. You might have lost your local newspaper. There's a very strong, wonderful metro newspaper, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution in Atlanta. But across the country, they aren't so lucky to have a local news outlet like that. So what happens is someone will launch a local news site. It's not actually news. Might be biased, might be filled with fake news, might be filled with automated news, might have true news here and there. So pink slime, this is an imposter news sites. This is another type of mis and disinformation you need to keep an eye out on, especially if you don't have that local news outlet anymore. Lastly, this scary one. It's Halloween, right? Well, it's almost Halloween. Well, we got like 10 days or something here, 12 days, a couple weeks. Zombie claims. Now, zombie claims. These are types of mis and disinformation that pop up all the time. I don't have it here, but you might have just seen on Facebook. People are spreading and saying that, well, Facebook is going to change their terms of service and everything's going to be public. Your Instagram DMs are going to be public. That happens every year, and it's not true. It's just not true. Every single year at the Met Gala, image spreads claiming to show Jason Derulo falling down the stairs. Well, Jason Derulo has never fallen down the stairs. His grandma calls him, says, "Are you okay? Are you okay? You fell down those stairs." And he has to say, "No, I didn't fall down any stairs." That's a zombie claim because it comes up every year. And lastly, this is now we're seeing this a lot, is every time a celebrity dies, someone comes out and says that they died of the COVID-19 vaccine, even though they didn't. This is a claim that we're probably going to see a lot more and more. Zombie claims. Got to watch out for those. But really what it comes down to is red flags. Whenever you see, I mentioned this, emotional responses. Anytime you see something that makes you feel emotional online, you need to stop before sharing and do what I'm about to tell you what to do. Anytime you see anonymous news sources, anonymous accounts on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, stop before sharing. And anytime there's breaking news events, anytime there's a shooting or anything that's really emotional, an emotional time, that's when you need to stop, because you don't always have to have an opinion on something. You don't always have to have something to say about what's going on in the news. As much as we want to, you don't always have to. So now I've walked you through what mis and disinformation looks like, what kind of themes we're going to see coming up with the election. Now, I want to tell you exactly how you can teach your friends and family how to spot and debunk misinformation on their own. This is a tried and true method developed by the Stanford History Education Group that will help you, your friends, your family, those in your community, hopefully your elected officials, make sure that what they're seeing online is actually true. And if it's false, not share it, report it, get rid of it, whatever you have to do. And it comes down to these three questions. Anytime you see something online that makes you feel those red flags, that makes you feel emotional, ask yourself these three questions. One, who is behind the information? Who shared it? Is it an anonymous account? Is it someone from an organization that might be biased? Is it an organization that might be lobbying for something in Congress? Then you might want to stop. Think a little bit deeply before you share and get more context. Two, what is the evidence? Did they actually share any links or sources or data or quotes or anything? If not, do not share it. And what do other sources say? This is my favorite one as a news reporter. Go online, check out what the AJC is saying. But then go over to the local broadcast outlets. See what they're saying about something. They might have a story on that Instagram DM thing. You might read multiple stories. Go online and search for all sorts of different opinions and everything on what you're seeing. It's good to read across tabs. You know how many tabs? How many tabs? I think there are a lot of people on their computer here. How many tabs do you have open? That's going to be important for this first technique and how to answer all those questions. So let me show you this reel. It's a little bit of a scary video, so I apologize for having to show you this. But I'm going to show you some examples of things we found online and what you can do to check them out. So here's this video.
So in New York, you're required to have an ID to buy Ready Whip, but you don't have to have one to vote. Make that make sense for me.
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say
what?
What? Say
that came from TikTok. Little bit, it's something you see on your feed and it might freak you out. But you might see it and feel this like emotional thing, like, wow, is that true? First of all, do I need an ID to buy whipped cream? Second of all, is it true that it's easier to get whipped cream than it is to vote? This falls in line with that election misinformation that I talked about earlier. You're going to hear lots of stories about how easy it is for ineligible voters to vote, or it's too easy to vote. I think there are sides out there that are trying to create this narrative that voting is too easy for people who are ineligible. This, in turn, creates policies that make it harder for people like you, me, anyone to actually vote. So it's important when you see anything related to elections to do a little bit more research. So first of all, where did this even come from? I would do something called lateral reading here to find out more. When you read a book, you read up and down, right? Up and down the page. When you read a document online or news site or something, you read till the end, right? That's not the way fact checkers do it. Fact checkers open up a new tab and Google for more information about whatever they're reading. Open up another new tab, Google for more information, tab. Lateral reading, reading across tabs rather than reading up and down the page. This goes back to the research we found about teenagers. Teenagers read up and down. They're on their phone, on their phone, reading up and down, scroll. The best thing to do is teaching them to stop, open up a new tab, do a little bit more research. This is like a really easy way that you can talk to your friends and family and tell them, when they share a video on TikTok, ask them, did you read laterally? What do you mean? Well, did you open up a new tab and search for anything about whipped cream and voting? No, I didn't. And then show them your tabs. I'm going to show you my tabs really quick here. So where did this actually start? This came from a tweet. It actually came from a tweet from somebody named Ryan Fournier about showing an ID to buy a can of whipped cream, but you don't need one to vote. First, this is an example of how something can start on Twitter, end up on TikTok. You see these narratives start in one social media platform and go over to more and more. So in my lateral reading, first I'm going to find out who is behind the information. So I'm going to open up a new tab. You will see a new tab open up here and find out more about this guy, Ryan Fournier. He's a founder, Students for Trump, executive director of Radical Work, Nuclear MAGA. Well, there's some red flags there. This person might have a bias. They might not have the most straightforward, nonpartisan way of viewing the world. So I open up a new tab and search for his Instagram. And this guy's Instagram is filled with all sorts of mis and disinformation. So I'm answering this first question, who's behind the information, using lateral reading. Open up another new tab, and I find out that this gentleman, he's actually been sentenced for posing as a lawyer. He could face some jail time. So just doing some research across tabs, I was able to find out who's behind the information. Avoid sharing this. Avoid creating a video on TikTok. I don't know whose Meemaw did that, but they obviously didn't do any lateral reading. But actually for the claim itself, once you find out who's behind the information, search for fact checks, search for news stories, search for something about what is actually happening here. So here I just Googled something very simple. I opened a new tab and I Googled ID for whipped cream and not voting. Pretty simple, that's what they're saying. So I Googled it. First thing I found was fact checks. Fact checks have probably already been done about a lot of the stuff that you are already searching and seeing online. And I found out, well, one, this is mostly false, You got to show an ID to actually register to vote. And there are voter protections in New York, as there are in all sorts of different states. But you can see how a rumor that starts somewhere, it started originally on Twitter, then it moved over to TikTok. You can see how something moves through the internet, creates false narratives. And the problem is on TikTok, it's a little bit harder to fact check that. So you might have a family member or a friend who sees that, and they're just in the TikTok app, and they might just see it and then kind of scroll to the next video. But then in their head, the next time they talk to a friend and family, they're like, hey, do you hear what happened in New York? It's actually really easy to vote there, but it's hard to buy whipped cream. And then that's how these narratives spread, is that they spread from the platform to real life. And then what you have is people who are passing laws to make it more difficult for anyone to vote. So you see this mis and disinformation. It might seem kind of funny, whipped cream. Do you need an ID to buy whipped cream? Well, yeah, in some places. But there's a lot more to the story. And that's what you'll find out with mis and disinformation. There's always more to the story. I'm sure I've got lots of storytellers here. That there's always more to the story. So next up, remember those data and graphs and statistics that I mentioned? Well, this was a graph that I saw on Instagram. It claims to say that the more vaccine booster shots you get, the more higher chance of death. Now, one, that's emotional, makes me feel pretty scared. Two, it's got that data and graphics here. It's got from some guy named Dr. Jack Krause. So, there's a lot going on here that's setting off my spidey senses. That's making me think, well, there might be not a whole lot here. Question number 2, who is behind the information? Or what? Two is what's the evidence? So we do that. We find that out by reading upstream. Reading upstream, kind of like lateral reading, just a different way to read the internet. Reading upstream, you're going to look for different sources, and you're gonna go right to the original source of information. Here, I'll just kind of show you how it happens on screen here. What I did is I went and I Googled this. I found this link that he actually posted in Instagram, and the link actually went directly to this blog. And in the blog, I can see that the guy who wrote the blog is a cryptocurrency trader. Obviously, a little bit of issues there. You don't really want to necessarily take too much advice from cryptocurrency traders, right? So where's he getting this data that shows that people are dying because of booster shots? Well, I read upstream. I followed some hyperlinks within this article, and I went straight over to the source, found out more about this database. So this data is apparently coming from the VAERS database, VAERS. And that is a database that you should not be basing like specific research like this, because it's a database that anyone, me, if I get the vaccine and then I trip and fall down some stairs like Jason Derulo didn't do, I could go to this database and say, hey, the vaccine made me fall down these stairs and embarrass myself in front of all my friends. Then that means someone can go on a blog and say, hey, the vaccine is making people fall down the stairs. Then you might see that spread on TikTok. I read upstream. I went straight to the source, and I found out in this database, if you read in this database, no, this database has issues that you need to find out about. But what about images? So we've talked about data. We've talked about TikTok, Twitter, things you see online, election misinformation. So what about images? So this is an image that has spread a little bit online, actually very recently. It is an image that claims to show former President Obama, again, popping into the presentation. and Michelle Obama. And people are spreading this image saying, whoa, something's off about Michelle here. They're saying, oh, Michelle has a 5 o'clock shadow, blah, blah, blah. You know, people like to spread hate online. This is just a little portion of the hate that you see spread online about people. And so this started going viral recently. So what can you do when you see an image like this going viral? Let's see a friend, probably not a good friend if they share this with you, but somebody you know shares this on Facebook. Here's what you can do. Here's what you can tell them how to do. You do something called a reverse image search. The Silicon Valley folks who I think are here, you're probably very familiar with this. This is when you save an image and you go to Google Images and you search for any instance of that image that has been posted online. That can help you look for the original source to see if it's been manipulated. It will help you look for fact checks. It will help you look for old images. You can find out so much by doing reverse image searches. I encourage you to have a lot of fun with them. You can find out if you're being catfished. Is that person who's emailing you the person they say they are? Check out their image. See if it might be a stock image. And it really is this simple. All you have to do is go to Google and just go to Google Images and just click the little photo icon. And when you do that, you will go ahead and be able to see actually just dropping the image, just drag and drop, as simple as that. Drop that image right in. And you can see it identifies right away. This is a picture of the former president and first lady. I was able to go through and find the actual image, the real original image. And well, look at that. Looks like someone really darkened the image. They might have added some extra, the spray paint tool or something. But you can see the original image, beautiful as always, unaltered. You can see, easy as that, 20 seconds, reverse image search. So getting ready to wrap up here. And really it comes down to these three questions that you should always ask yourself whenever you see something false online. 1, who's behind the information? 2, what is the evidence? And 3, what are other sources saying? Remember all these terms that we talked about today. If you got a notebook, if you got some notes in front of you, these are all some terms that you can share with your friends and family, make yourself sound smart. I mean, you're already smart. Make you sound smarter. Lateral reading, going across tabs. Reading upstream, going straight to the source. Pink slime journalism, false local news sites. And the scariest one, zombie claims. Watch out for those same claims over and over again. But lastly, when you do want to reach out to your friends and family, how do you do it? Everything we learned today, you can teach them. Make it private. Always be respectful and empathetic. Listen carefully. Those emotions, it always goes back to those emotions, right? Keep those emotions in check. And it's going to take a while. If you have a friend or family member who shared something false about the COVID-19 pandemic or vaccines, it might take a while to convince them, but just show them all of the stuff that you learned today. And sign them up for our wonderful text message course. If you got your phone in your hand, you can go ahead and scan that QR code, and we'll sign you up for a text message course that will teach you everything you learned today, right in the palm of your hand. You can share this with your friends. You can share it with your family. So you can give them the kind of summary rundown of what we talked about today, and then really give them this recap of what we talked about today. And they will be much better for it. So I want to end with really thanking you all for the opportunity here. This is an important topic. It really is. The fate of the nation, the fate of the public health, the fate of your communities, your friends, your family depends on the facts and going to the polls with the facts. I want to thank Meta for supporting us being here today. I am very grateful for this opportunity. Don't think we're going to be having any questions, but lastly, if you want to contact us, follow us across all social. We are at MediaWise across all of social media. It's my number. It's our email. If you want to take a screenshot of our address and, send me a bouquet of flowers or something, I'd be down for it. But other than that, follow me on social. Thank you.
Alex, this has been absolutely amazing. I couldn't take notes fast enough. Just so many things that you dropped, so many pieces of knowledge and information just on how we dissect what we see online. So thank you for, having such insight and giving us examples. That was really helpful for us to see how quickly these things can be adjusted and how they can be manipulated. And so it's really helpful for us to be able to do this, especially as we get closer to the midterm elections and people are trying to make good decisions and good choices. And you all have so much to offer. So I want to remind all of the viewers to please take advantage of the QR code. We will be sharing it through our West Coast office database, and we'll share it also with our wonderful Southeast office under the leadership of Attorney Patillo, so that the information can be shared. Folks can go to that picture, get more information, and we'll actually be doing a repeat of a lot of this in a interactive town hall this coming Monday, the 24th of October at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And so we'll make that information available to everyone as well. But Alex, thank you for teaching us to operate like a fact checker. And I love the fact you reminded us to stop before we share, because not everything is shareable. Thanks again for this amazing session. And I hope it's been helpful for everyone watching. I hope that you've been as inspired and encouraged and enlightened as I have. And we want to turn things back over to our fantastic leader of our Southeast office in Atlanta. He's doing such an amazing job providing leadership on so many different platforms, as well as engaging this work. And he wants to present something very special as we move forward in this conference, creating opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, our brother, Attorney Robert Patillo.
Thank you so much, Pastor Brian. Thank you so much for your presentation, Alex. It was outstanding information, and we support everything you guys got going on.